Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. Today's hidden figure is Charlotte Amanda Spears Bass, born February 14th, 1874, and died April 12th, 1969. She was an American educator, newspaper publisher, editor, and civil rights activist. She also focused on various other issues such as housing rights, voting rights, and labor rights, as well as police brutality and harassment. Bass is believed to be the first Black American woman to own and operate a newspaper in the United States. She published the California Eagle from 1912 until 1951. In 1952, Bass became the first Black American woman nominated for vice president as a candidate of the Progressive Party. Due to her activities, Bass was repeatedly accused of being a part of the Communist Party, for which there was no evidence and which Bass herself repeatedly denied. She was monitored by the FBI, who continued to view her as a potential security threat up until she was in her 90s. Charlotte Amanda Spears Bass was born in Sumter, South Carolina on February 14, 1874, to Hiram and Kate Spears. She was the sixth child of 11. She received an education from public schools and one semester at Pembroke College, and when she was 20 years old, she moved to live with her brother in Providence, Rhode Island, where she worked for the Providence Watchman. Spears worked for the Watchman for about 10 years before moving to California for her health. She ended up working at the California Owl, which was a newspaper established by John James Neimore in 1879 in Los Angeles as a way to ease Black settlers' transition to the West. The paper provided them with housing and job information and other information essential to surviving in a new environment. When arriving in California, Charlotta was first employed by the California Owl selling subscriptions, but soon she was wearing multiple hats, writing, editing, and doing anything else Neimore needed her to do. When founder John Neimore died, Bass became the Owl's editor and publisher in March 1912 after purchasing the paper at auction for $50. She remained the owner and editor-in-chief for over 40 years until she sold the paper in 1951. In 1914, Charlotta hired and subsequently married Joseph Blackburn Bass, a Kansas newspaperman who co-edited the paper until his death in 1934. She renamed the newspaper company to the California Eagle due to increasing social and political issues. Her purpose for the Eagle was to write about the wrongs of society. Under the control of Charlotta Bass, the California Eagle evolved into one of the leading papers of the day. It developed a large Black readership, and by 1925, the Eagle employed a staff of 12 and published 20 pages a week. The Eagle's circulation of 60,000 made it the largest Black American newspaper on the West Coast. The Black community in Los Angeles was growing rapidly in the early 1900s as California had attracted many Black American settlers who were heading west in search of better economic opportunities than were available in the South. Black Americans were also experiencing high home ownership rates in this booming city. However, Bass was not shy to point out that while California offered many opportunities for Blacks, there was still a considerable amount of discrimination. Bass was a vocal opponent of redlining in Los Angeles neighborhoods, and she used the paper as a way of raising awareness of restrictive covenants in housing, which the United States Supreme Court found to be unconstitutional in 1948. She also took part in successful campaigns to end job discriminations at the Los Angeles General Hospital, the Los Angeles Rapid Transit Company, the Southern Telephone Company, and the Boulder Dam Project. Charlotta Bass was also co-president of the Los Angeles division of the Universal Negro Improvement Association during the early 1920s and was a West Coast promoter of the Don't Buy Where You Can't Work campaigns of the mid to late 1930s. As editor and publisher of the California Eagle, Bass drew awareness to various issues facing Black Americans and other minorities, and the Eagle is credited as pioneering multi-ethnic politics in journalism, advocating for Asian American and Mexican American civil rights in the 1940s. During this time, the California Eagle was under investigation by the Office of the Secretary of War, who viewed it as a threat to national security. The Department of Justice interrogated Bass in 1942 over claims that the paper was funded by Japan and Germany. The FBI placed her under surveillance on the charge that her newspaper was seditious and continued to monitor her until her death. Accused of being a communist in 1940, Bass was called before the California legislature's Joint Fact-Finding Committee on Un-American Activities. The accusations began to take a toll on her effectiveness in the community and her ability to sell her newspaper. Charlotta Bass wrote her last column for the California Eagle on April 26, 1951, and sold the paper soon after. When the California Eagle shut down its presses in 1964, it was one of the oldest Black-owned and operated papers in the United States. Considering the sum of her career, she was completing her autobiography called 40 Years and published in 1960. Bass wrote, "It has been a good life that I have had, though a very hard one, but I know the future will be even better. And as I think back, I know that this is the only kind of life. In serving one's fellow man, one serves himself best." Bass devoted her remaining years to politics. In 1952, Charlotta Bass served as the national chairman of the Sojourners for Truth and Justice, an organization of Black women set up to protest racial violence in the South. In the Progressive Party presidential campaign of 1952, Charlotta Bass was the running mate of lawyer Vincent Hanlon, making her the first Black American woman nominated for vice president on a national ticket. She was also a founding member of California's Independent Progressive Party, part of the National Progressive Party, a third-party movement. Moreover, she founded, led, and participated in numerous civil rights organizations. In the early 1960s, Charlotta Bass retired and moved to Lake Elsinore, California, where she continued her civil rights activism. She turned her garage into a community reading room and a voter registration site for Black Americans, and also joined protests against South African apartheid and on behalf of prisoners' rights. In 1966, Bass had a stroke and afterwards retired to a Los Angeles nursing home. In 1967, at age 91, the FBI still classified Charlotta Bass as a potential security threat. During her years of retirement, she maintained a library in her garage for the young people in her neighborhood as a continuation of her long fight to give all people opportunities and education. She died in Los Angeles on April 12, 1969, from a cerebral hemorrhage, and she's buried alongside her husband in Evergreen Cemetery, East Los Angeles, California. Charlotta Spears Bass and figure. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. There will be links in the description box. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.